All right, we're going to go jump right into our second fireside chat of the day. And for this, I'd like to bring on Nikhil from Circle. He's the Chief Product Officer of Circle. We're going to cover all the things that have been happening in the world of stablecoins. So please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Nikhil, I'm really excited to chat with you. Stablecoins have taken the entire industry by storm. We've seen incredible growth. And there have been so many cool things that have kind of come out from a product standpoint from Circle, so I'm excited to chat with you about this. But the thing I wanted to start off with was understanding kind of how you got in this space. You've been at kind of Meta, you've been at Google, and now at Circle. What sort of got you excited to join Circle? And tell us about kind of things that led you to be part of the Circle team.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I think it's pretty obvious. I grew up in India, but I'm a child of the internet. I had no family in the US, so I came to the US because I discovered the internet. I went to school. I got a scholarship because of the internet. I worked at Google for many years. I was early at Google, and Google was about the open internet. And then over the years, the internet was closing up. And it's just a personal passion of mine to make sure that the internet stays open, because it is sort of the frontier of human consciousness from my perspective. And as I looked at it, I'm a PM, a product manager. I don't write code as much, although more recently I've been having fun with all the GPT products out there.
That's awesome.
So the question was what do I do? What's a good application? I'm not going to be able to contribute to a core protocol. I'm not that technical anymore. And for me, it was pretty obvious, stablecoins was just superbly, it was such a good product. I remember growing up, when I first wanted to come to the US, I had to score $1,800 to buy a plane ticket and have some money till I got paid from school. And getting those $1,800 back in 1998, 1999 was an incredible hill to climb. And over the years, I sent back money home, and I used to always sell nice tech stock, and I would send I would convert the money into rupees, and my parents would sort of take the rupees and be happy with it. But I would have just rather them have the dollars and not the rupees. And so for me, it's a really personal story. I just like the idea of an internet where everybody has access to the best products. I think Circle has built a product, which is the USDC stablecoin. If anywhere in the world, you can get access to dollars. Access to a US passport is probably still very valuable.
The most wanted thing.
Yeah, very valuable. And so I just think it's just a remarkable idea that I think most people don't understand this. If you're American, in America, anybody can go get a bank account. But if you're not one of the 330 million Americans, to get a bank account in dollars is almost impossible, unless you're a big corporation or you have immense political connections. So I just think it's sort of a tool for economic liberation. It's a way to bring people together. It funds the world computer. It's just so many good things about USDC. It's also stablecoin, and it's also cross-border payments and all that, and we can talk about that as well. But I think Circle's mission is just really important to me. And I think USDC is really important to me. I think blockchain-based infra is really important to me. So I work on things that are important to me. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's always great when you have a personal kind of inspiration for this, because you get to actually think about solving the problem, and you know that if you don't like it, there's a lot more that won't either. And but if you do, it resonates with more people.
Yeah. I am a big believer that individuals are really responsible for shaping the future. So I'm just doing my part in that. So.
And that's amazing. Yeah. Well, I think one thing that most people don't know is that you are not just the issuer of a stablecoin. There's a lot more that Circle does. Yeah. And we'd love to learn more about all the other things that you have.
Yeah, and I think the way to think about Circle is I like to think in threes. First, we make the USDC stablecoin. We make it available on many blockchains. It's about 17 blockchains that we make it available on today, and we'll be adding a bunch more next year. So we're speeding up because we want to support the ecosystem. Second is like we make it easy for people to get access to the USDC. So what does that look like? That's where all the TradFi stuff comes in. We make sure that we have access to banking around the world. So if you are in Singapore, if you're in Mexico, if you're in Brazil, if you're in the EU, you can send us local currency, get USDC. You can send us dollars, get USDC, and you can do that instantaneously. And we're going to significantly enhance that footprint over the next 18 months. And the third thing is we help you do things with the USDC. Well, you have the USDC, you know how to get it. Like now, what do we do with it? So we have an entire Web3 services platform, which has the ability for developers to build wallets that utilize USDC, and for that matter, any other token. It's not just USDC. And we have on-chain products like what we call cross-chain transfer protocol that allows you to have like chain-agnostic USDC. And then we have a bunch of products around that which make it possible for like traditional enterprises, which are like Web2-ish companies, to sort of like on-ramp into Web3 very, very easily.
Or not specifically financial institutions, is that correct, or including?
It's financial and non-financial institutions. We did a big collaboration with Grab last year. So Grab launched like something called purpose-bound money in Singapore on the back of our wallets. Purpose-bound money is money coming from the government to a Grab user where they can only spend it at businesses that the government deems appropriate. And so that's an example that's an NFT, but it's still money. And it's still value that like the wallet is able to like mediate. And so there's a bunch of these examples. I think like after FTX crashed, there was a lot of confusion in the market. My expectation is that next year the confusion starts like clearing up, and there will be a lot more of these like enterprises coming back into the game, because like I think everybody just freaked out,
Understandably.
yeah, after FTX crashed. And like I had a friend tell me, he's like, nobody wants to like, no CMO wants to sit in front of like Congress to explain like, you know, why they have an NFT in their wallet. And so I see this scenario changing, and eventually like the wallet, the most interesting thing in the wallet is value. And without value, there is no value exchange. And so, and USDC hopes to play that role. So we're gonna keep building wallets, wallet primitives. We're gonna keep hoping that the future where people have wallets on chain arrives soon. Coinbase have taken a similar tack. They're sort of in this view of like getting 1 billion users on chain. We're not as big as Coinbase, but we are doing our part in trying to get users on chain. And we want to simplify this. Like, you know, we want to simplify the UX layer. Like, what does it mean to send users? What is an address? It's a really, really complicated concept. And all I did for 20 years was consumer apps. And I just think like the UX is just really, really difficult still. And so we're working on UX primitives. We're working on like wallet stuff. We're working on like on-chain primitives to take away the complexity of holding USDC. We're making USDC more capital efficient, so you don't have to have as much of it. We're going to introduce new products next year.
What does that mean?
So yeah, next year we're going to work on products that make it possible for you to not have to hold USDC across many, many chains at the same time.
Yes.
So you can hold USDC and you can sort of instantly bridge. And things like that. So like it's just a better asset to program with, and so a programmer's mindset versus sort of like an asset issuer's mindset. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I was going to ask you what are interesting things that are being worked on, but you already answered that. When you think about what could be possible with USDC or just any product that Circle works on, is kind of the question that you're answering about what the user would do with this if we offer this as an API or an asset? Or is it more about what you would like to be solved and you make those decisions to help get there faster?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. Sort of the way sort of when like new product managers, engineers join Circle, and they ask me like, you know, who is USDC for? Is it for consumers? Is it for businesses? Like, how should I think about it? So I tell them the story about like when I was a much younger person, I was in the Amazon, and I was able to buy Coca-Cola in the Amazon. And so, because I was really thirsty, and I was like, all right, I need something cold and refreshing, and there was a can of Coke. I opened it up, I had an experience of like those bubbles in my mouth. It was a pretty standard experience that I get in San Francisco as well. But What I didn't know was how that Coca-Cola got there. So there are two aspects to the experience. One is like the experience of drinking the Coca-Cola, and then second is the distribution of that Coca-Cola to that endpoint in the Amazon, which is completely oblivious to the user. The user did not go to coca-cola.com to buy that Coca-Cola. They just got it where they were. So we work on both problems. We work on the problem of like making sure that when you use USDC, it's just that simple. You don't have to think, you don't have to understand chains, gas, addresses, bridging, like all this stuff is like, it's great for like, more advanced users. But for the users that we target, this is a consumer product at the end of the day, much like Coca-Cola is a consumer product. We want to make sure that your experience is very simple for the folks in Argentina who are using stablecoins. It's very simple. But that machinery that got that can of Coke to the Amazon, or got that USDC into Argentina, or like got that USDC into Brazil or Mexico, that allowed the user to sort of bring peso or real and then like convert it into USDC, and like the capital efficiency of that, and making sure that there is depth over there so they can do it for larger transactions when they want to do it 24/7, paying the least amount of gas. That's an important problem too. So we work on both problems. Both of the problems reveal themselves differently. Like we have user research that we actively run. We're probably one of the few crypto companies that have a UXR team that's in the field, getting feedback from users on like, and actually bringing back videos of them trying to send USDC through an exchange. It's just miserable.
What has been sort of a harder part of doing this? And this is like, obviously you covered a lot of the UX piece, but I'm actually curious to know about what's the behind the scenes of supporting new chains. Is there, obviously every chain has their own nuance, and you have to keep the experience consistent. So what's been hard, what's been easy? And you said you have 17 chain supports. Clearly we're going to see hundreds of them in the future. So what's been the thing that stands out as challenging usually?
We can't keep up. Like there's, I mean, if there's so many app chains, and like having a native experience is just better, and it's more secure. And so we're looking for ways in which like we won't have to like keep like adding USDC support to each individual chain. So like this whole idea of super chains is really interesting. So that future, when it comes, will be really good for us, because like, the asset will be instantly bridgeable and like, native on all the chains that are inside the super chain. So, so one is like, hey, how do we sort of have a scalable architecture for having a good, consistent experience that's outside the super chain, right? So I don't know the answer to that question. We have to sort of integrate those chains into our into what we call CCTP. So that's hard. Also, security models tend to be different. Security budgets on the chains are different. So we get into that, like, we have debates of it. Sometimes we have to deprecate a chain. What do we do then? It is an asset, like it is, we are regulated, so we have to tell the regulator, like, how are we serving the users who were on the chain? We can't just leave them stranded.
It's literally money.
Yeah, so it's little money, so we can't just, the money can't disappear. So we have to have a redemption process for the money. So that's hard. And then, yeah, just like making sure that we are sort of an appropriately neutral player in the ecosystem. But then for the chains that who want to work with us and want to grow their ecosystem, we are a good partner. And so that's a balancing act. Like, we try to make sure that we are making the same opportunity available to everybody. But like if a chain comes in and it's like, look, I have this amazing growth program. Do you want to get behind it? And we're like, yeah, like that kind of makes sense. And so how do we, like, that's a little hard. And like, the other thing is...
It changes for everybody too. So it's not a constant, like this will be a different answer in a story and a request from every chain.
Every chain, yeah. And then like there's also like, when I first came in, the other thing that was hard is like convincing people that that the open internet is good. Like public blockchains are more secure than like private chains. Not waiting for like TradFi is coming. I mean, TradFi is great. Like I would love to have them, but like when they show up, they're gonna look very different. Yeah.
are there usually visceral reactions on, hey, why is everything public?
There are, like, like I was at YouTube early days, right? So if imagine me, I joined YouTube. I was at Google in 2005. I joined YouTube after the acquisition, and it's a bunch of cat videos. And so like we would tell people like, look, this is where like all the future stuff is gonna happen. And then my boss would tell me, like my boss and his boss's boss would tell me like, listen man, like I don't know, this is all shit. Like I really want to watch Lost, which is an old show on YouTube. And in my head, like I was like a junior person, so in my head I would always be like, well, why do you want to watch Lost? You can watch it on TV. I really want to watch the Numa Numa dance, which is like a really solid old video. And so like the behavior is gonna be, it's gonna be new. It's gonna be like the behavior in Argentina that we were talking about. It's totally novel. And so like, for me, like I think it's hard to convince people that that behavior will be sort of like the driver of growth. It's sort of the expansion of markets. That is interesting. Financial markets are bigger and deeper than the video market was. Even in 2006, video market was like, depending on who you ask, was like a $450 billion market. But it's a pretty big market for back then, but like financial markets are bigger than that. So I don't know the shape of it, but like I think like it's a good bet that it is easier to satisfy new demand than to sort of replace like a system that is already there in place, right? So we're focused on satisfying new demand. And like, most of the times when like people realize that like there is like money to be made, like, the older folks, older traditional folks show up and they sort of adopt those things. Like, if you take the BlackRock Biddle Fund, you can redeem.
Which is every institution now, which
every
is
institution has
by
it.
definition
And
following.
You can redeem it to USDC, and it's through a smart contract. And I think even 3 years ago, that would be a crazy idea. That like, hey, you can actually buy Biddle, have it be on chain, and have it be 24/7 redeemable for USDC through a smart contract.
And saying that at CNBC to everybody else at the morning show,
Yeah.
explaining what the hell's going on.
I don't think most people still understand it. Like I think, but it's a feature. People use it. I mean, like we have an allocation. We allocate balance sheet to like do that. It sort of runs out on a consistent basis.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do want to focus on one thing that's not all about USDC. What do you think about other stablecoins out there? Kind of the algorithmic ones out there. There is just generally more on-chain specific contracts.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's people are realizing that it's a big market. Like I think like sort of what Jeremy's bet was like 6 years ago, and sort of my bet like 3 years ago was like, hey, this is going to be important. Like I think like, or what was just said by the last speaker, like you touch money like all the time throughout the day, right? And when you touch money, like you cannot have that money be completely volatile. So stablecoins are just inherently more efficient at settlement, and they are less risky at settlement, right? So like there's less risk essentially because they don't, they're not in the system for more time than is needed. And so I am expecting a lot of people to come into this truth. There is regulatory clarity in Europe because of MiCA. We're licensed in Singapore, so there's like clarity there. There will be clarity in other parts of the world where like stablecoins become money next year. Like right now they're still kind of in the middle, right? But next year they're just money.
This is like, you mean the legal definition of it, or
Yeah.
just because it'll just be so convenient that it counts?
It's the legal definition I mean, it's convenient right now, but like I don't think you get to on-ramp and off-ramp into it as easily because it's still a crypto asset. And so you need like a crypto asset license to like really serve, or like a VASP license to serve your users with it. I don't know the full shape of how that evolves, but it'll become money, more like money in 25 and 26 than it is right now. So I think like, so that's why you'll see more people coming in, because they will be like, all right, well, I can use banks to do my settlement, or I can do the settlement by myself.
2 seconds with zero cost.
Zero cost, or like I'll pay a little gas and like, and that's it. And so, but the shape of the stable coin, is there 1 or 2 or 3 that have like network effects and have broad acceptance versus like tokenizing private debt and then trying to move it across as a stable coin. I don't know. That feels more funky. Like, like some of the more recent efforts where like people are just tokenizing bank balance sheets and calling them stablecoin. So their regulatory clarity will help. But there's all kinds of news today, like of like big acquisitions in this space. There's a lot of activity in this space, which is good. Like I think the more legitimacy there is.
Proving the point that it's a big industry, and
it's a big industry. Like I mean, like today, without like significant regulation, without legitimization, like there's 170 billion worth of stablecoin in the world. That is a wild thing. Like it's a crazy idea. I know we sit here because we're in crypto and like Bitcoin is $1.5 trillion and like, but $170 billion of an asset that like is just internet money.
in the last 4 years only.
4 years only, right? Like it's so primarily in the 4 years. I know Tether is an like older
fair
asset,
enough, yeah, so
older
you're
asset, and it's been around and they've been building up distribution for some period of time. But that 170 billion is like a drop in the bucket when like you consider M2 supply, and then there's M1 supply, and then like so I don't know. And we are still not in the period of like economic, like easy monetary policy. So if like money printing resumes, what happens to the total stablecoin supply? Like there's a lot of like reasons to want to be bullish about the market and believe that there's a tailwind and like more people will want to participate. So yeah, I'm very happy for like all of these people to come in, like because then it's easier for us in DC.
It's not a zero-sum game yet.
Yeah, it never was. The internet was never zero-sum. That's the thing. If like in 2007 or 2005, like when I started Google, like we're like, oh, we're gonna have like Google's gonna come in, it's gonna take everything, and like nobody's gonna have any money. Google made a lot of money, but the whole internet economy is like ridiculously big, and like there's hard to prove like another innovation in the last 25 years that has had like bigger economic impact. The same way, like I think like this core innovation it's so big. Like maybe Circle does great, maybe it doesn't. Like who knows? My hope is it does great. But like it's such a massive force. Like it's so big that like, and sometimes that gets lost. And I think like, maybe if we hadn't had FTX, maybe it was a little bit faster. Like yeah.
You have the science and the church moment here.
Yes.
Well, my final kind of question to you is, even though you kind of did tease this a bit, is there anything else you want to talk about on what's coming up from the Circle developer platform, or things that you're excited about launching in the near term?
I mean, we launched some new features in wallets, which are like these modules, which are like these pre-audited contracts. People should take a look at them. The main thing we are, outside of the wallets, we're going to be doing is like many more chains next year, and like reducing the latency for like our bridge like significantly. I think like and that is again in the sort of like spirit of making USDC capital efficient, which actually shrinks our circulation. So there's always like pushback in doing that, but fundamentally it's better for the economy.
It's the right thing to do for your users.
It's the right thing to do for the users, and it actually increases like utility and like transaction volume, and that we can track and that we can prove. And so stablecoins have surpassed like Visa in transaction volume. A16Z report today, it's 2x of what like Visa transaction volume is. You should think about it as the beginning, not as like at the end. Like we're at the beginning of it. Like in 4 years' time, that's going to be 8x, 10x of like Visa transaction volume, because we can essentially, with stablecoins, we can tap into any money settlement flow. It's not just consumer settlement flows, any money settlement flows. And those mean that like global banking flows, like cross-border flows, remittance flows, internal treasury flows. Every flow can sort of get better by reducing settlement risk, right? And yeah, you're taking some counterparty risk with a stablecoin, and you should choose the best stablecoin to be able to do that, right? So
amazing. I think that's an awesome note to end this on. I want to thank you so much
for
this amazing chat. Please give him a big round of applause.